Hey, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We often think of the 1920s as this fun, jazzy time, right? The roaring 20s.
That's the popular image, yeah. Flapper dresses, Charleston dances.
Exactly. But underneath all that excitement, there was, well, a real tug of war going on. New ideas about how to live, what to believe. They were crashing head on into older, more traditional values.
Absolutely. It caused some serious friction. The 1920s were a period where American society was really grappling with rapid change.
So that naturally led to conflict.
It did. Different groups had very different visions for the country's future.
And our goal today is to kind of unpack that, explore where these cultural clashes really played out.
Precisely. To understand the key conflicts between emerging modern ideas and those traditional values.
Okay, so let's start with maybe the most famous one, alcohol. We're talking about prohibition.
Right, the nationwide ban.
Mm.
No making, selling, or transporting booze legally.
Why? I mean, why did the whole
Yeah.
country decide to do that? It seems drastic.
Well, it wasn't out of the blue. There was a powerful movement behind it for years.
By who?
Various groups, religious organizations, social reformers. They genuinely believed alcohol was wrecking society.
How so?
They argued it led to crime, poverty, family breakdown, serious social problems. They'd been pushing for it for a long time.
And they finally got it with the 18th Amendment.
That's right.
But, okay, you ban alcohol. People still want to drink, right? So that leads to things like speakeasies, these secret bars.
Exactly. The demand didn't just vanish. So almost instantly, this whole underground network springs up.
Hidden clubs, bars.
Yeah, hidden in basements, behind fake storefronts, you name it. They were basically a middle finger to the law.
A symbol of defiance.
Definitely. And a huge part of the social scene, ironically.
And you needed people to actually get the alcohol to these places. That's the bootleggers.
You got it. The folks involved in the illegal making and distribution of alcohol.
Sounds risky.
Oh, incredibly risky. Big money to be made, but huge dangers too. Smuggling liquor across state lines, even from Canada or the Caribbean, running hidden stills.
Dodging the authorities constantly.
Yep. It took some serious nerve and often, well, connections.
Which kind of leads perfectly into the next point. Organized crime. It feels like Prohibition just handed them a golden opportunity.
It really did. It's one of the biggest unintended consequences. Criminal organizations saw this massive illegal market and jumped right in.
Taking control.
Yeah, fighting turf wars over supply routes, distribution networks. They made immense fortunes.
And that money leads to other problems.
Absolutely. Widespread corruption,
Yeah.
bribing police, politicians. It really damaged law and order in many places. Trying to legislate morality had some pretty significant blowback.
Okay, so that's the whole alcohol conflict. Let's shift gears a bit. Another huge clash was over beliefs, right? Religion. Tell us about the fundamentalists.
Right. Fundamentalism was a religious movement that really gained steam in the early 20th century.
And they were.
Yeah.
Traditional.
Very traditional. They believed in a strict, literal interpretation of the Bible.
So taking every word as fact.
Essentially, yes. And they were deeply concerned about the changes happening in society, new scientific ideas, different social norms. They saw it as moral decline.
Okay. And then on the other side, you had modernism. Sounds like the opposite.
In many ways, it was. Modernism wasn't just one thing. It was a broad movement across arts, culture, philosophy, even theology.
What defined it?
Embracing new ideas, experimentation, breaking away from tradition. Think abstract art, jazz music.
Things that felt new and different.
Exactly. In religion, it meant maybe a more symbolic reading of scriptures, not always literal. And generally, modernists were more welcoming of science and evolving social views.
So you can immediately see the conflict there with fundamentalism.
A huge tension. Two very different ways of looking at the world and America's place in it.
Now, it wasn't just beliefs or booze. How people express themselves socially was changing too, right? Like drag balls, what were they?
Yeah, that's another interesting aspect. Drag balls were social events, mostly in urban areas, where people would dress in clothes typically associated with the opposite gender.
Cross-dressing.
Cross-dressing, yes, but in a more public social event context. It became more visible in the 1920s.
Part of challenging norms.
Exactly. Questioning traditional ideas about gender roles, expressive identity in new ways. Of course, this wasn't mainstream.
No, I bet it faced a lot of pushback.
Oh, definitely. Social disapproval, sometimes legal trouble. But it showed these shifts were happening.
Okay, all these tensions, alcohol, religion versus science, social expression, it feels like they all came to a head in one famous event, the Scopes monkey trial.
Ah, yes. Dayton, Tennessee, 1925. A real flashpoint.
What was the core issue? I know it involved evolution.
Right. Tennessee had passed the Butler Act, making it illegal to teach human evolution in state-funded schools.
Because it contradicted the Bible.
That was the fundamentalist perspective, yes. So a substitute teacher, John Scopes, deliberately taught it anyway, basically as a test case.
And he got arrested.
He did. And the trial became this huge national spectacle, a showdown between fundamentalism and modernism, played out in a courtroom.
And it attracted some big names, right? Clarence Darrow.
Clarence Darrow, one of the most famous lawyers in America at the time, known for being incredibly sharp, a defender of progressive causes, and agnostic.
And he defended Scopes.
Volunteered to. He saw it as a battle for intellectual freedom, for science and reason against, in his view, religious intolerance. His involvement guaranteed massive media coverage.
Wow. And there was an organization involved, too, the ACLU.
Yes, the American Civil Liberties Union. Their whole mission is defending constitutional rights and liberties.
Like free speech.
Exactly. They saw the Butler Act as violating academic freedom and free speech. In fact, they were the ones who advertised for a teacher willing to challenge the law.
So they instigated the test case, in a way?
They facilitated it. They wanted to bring the issue before the courts. Their role highlights this growing awareness of civil liberties amidst all the cultural change.
Okay, so looking back at all this, prohibition, speakeasies, bootleggers, crime, fundamentalism, modernism, drag balls, the Scopes trial. It paints a picture of a really turbulent decade.
Absolutely. The core theme is this intense struggle between tradition and modernity.
Can we sort of summarize the main conflicts? Prohibition, for instance. More than just about drinking.
Much more. It reflected deep divisions about morality, personal freedom versus social control, and its failures, speakeasies, organized crime just highlighted those divisions even more. It showed how hard it is to legislate behavior.
Right. And the Scopes trial wasn't just about teaching evolution in one classroom.
Not at all. It was symbolic. A battle over knowledge itself, how we know things, who gets to decide what's taught. Science versus a literal interpretation of religion in public life. With figures like Darrow, it became a national debate.
Raising those big questions about faith, reason, church, and state.
Exactly. Questions we still grapple with.
And then things like drag balls, while maybe smaller scale, still represented that push against old norms.
They did. They were signs of changing attitudes about gender, identity, self-expression, things that challenged conventional values and definitely faced resistance.
So the Roaring '20s, maybe less roaring with fun and more roaring with conflict.
Perhaps.
Wow.
It was definitely dynamic, full of energy, yes, but also full of tension and debate. These conflicts profoundly shaped American society.
The echoes are still felt today.
Without a doubt. The conversations about individual liberty, social values, the role of science and faith, they didn't end in 1929.
That's a really important takeaway. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listeners with some things to chew on.
Good idea.
First, how did introducing prohibition actually create new kinds of social conflict in the 1920s? Think about those unintended consequences. Second, in what ways was the Scopes trial more than just a legal case? How did it represent a bigger cultural battle?
Right, the symbolism.
Third, think about places like speakeasies and events like drag balls. How did their emergence challenge what were considered traditional American values at the time?
The challenge to norms.
Fourth, what were the really core reasons, the underlying tensions behind that conflict between fundamentalism and modernism?
Yeah, what was really at stake?
And finally, how did the actions of people like Clarence Darrow or groups like the ACLU actually reflect the cultural pressures and divides of the 1920s?
How individuals and groups respond.
So mull those over. Consider how similar debates about tradition, change, science, and values might be playing out even now. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.